20 years ago, I was 16 years old, and I was living in Hayward, Wisconsin, going to high school there, and the local lumberjack show asked me if I wanted to be a lumberjack. And I said yes, and the rest is history.
Here we go. Whoa! Hey, we got a runner in the pond!
The lumberjack show that I started at is in Hayward, Wisconsin. Like I said, it's at the home of the Lumberjack World Championships. So the Lumberjack World Championships happens one weekend every year, and it has for over 60 years. And back in the late 70s, I think early 80s, Rob Shear started a lumberjack show right there at the Lumberjack World Championship site. And it's basically like a mock competition. As you can see here in Ketchikan now, it's just 2 lumberjacks versus 2 other lumberjacks, and they go head to head in, a dozen different events, timber sport events. So there's 3 chopping events, there's a couple sawing events, manual sawing events, and then there's a couple chainsaw events. There's speed climbing. That's one of the events that kind of stands alone. It's a climbing event where they race up to the top of the pole and back down. There's log rolling, where there's 2 people on a log in the water, seeing who could last the longest. Boom running, so a plethora of things. It's all events that derived from the old techniques they used to use to log back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. My favorite event is the speed climb. In 2018, I was the 90-foot speed climbing world champion.
But now we are getting into our speed climbing event. This right here, one of the most exciting events in timber sports. Our climbers are going to start with 1 foot on the crash pad. 1 gap is going to be stuck in that tree. They will then climb to the top of the spar pole, tag their rope to the top line, then come all the way back down to the crash pad. Whoever hits that crash pad first is the winner of this event. Now these guys are some of the fastest climbers in the world, so let's give them some encouragement. Dawson Creek, that's your man Cameron Pilgrim. Bruce Mill, you know him, you love him, that's your man Turbo, Tom Lancaster. Cheer him on to the top and all the way back down. Climbers, ready? 1, 2, go! Here we go, all the way to the top. There is the tag, the bell, and that's the win!
This is my first winter in Ketchikan, and I needed a way to train. I wanted to keep practicing my events, especially log rolling. And this is what when I bring it out to the lake, I can wear my spiked shoes, my cork shoes, on a bare log. When I do log rolling on the show, it's a liner in the tank, so we have carpet on the log. So we actually roll on tennis shoes, which is, you're still log rolling, but it is a little bit different. So this mimics professional competition more than rolling on a carpet in a lined tank. Log rolling is one of the harder events to learn in timber sports because it does require so much coordination and balance and basically constantly moving your feet and adjusting your body to stay balanced. So that's what I'm focused on. A lot of time is finding that center of the log and trying to match that with the center of my body. To be competitive, you have to be training a lot, you have to be on the log a lot, and you have to get on there with another person and be able to know what that's like and be able to learn how to manipulate that log in a way to put you at advantage to stay on the log longer. But there is a lot of things going on out there that it's hard to see, and even myself still kind of trying to wrap my head around how to do those as far as changing the direction at the right time to knock your opponent in the water. Those kind of decisions and that kind of being able to think on your feet, literally, is a big component to being a successful log roller. It's one of my favorite things to do in Ketchikan this winter, especially. It's really peaceful. This lake is so beautiful, surrounded by all the trees and the mountains, and especially this winter when there was snow on the ground or ice on the lake. So it's a really, really peaceful and a pleasant experience for me, and then I also get to train. So I get to be active, but also I get to kind of be in a beautiful place. So yeah, I feel really grateful.
So yeah, I started the seasonal lifestyle about 2 years ago, about 2022, I think, when I came from college up here and then just decided to do this. So 3 years maybe. The seasonal lifestyle, I definitely feels different and strays away from like the normal 9 to 5. And I really like that. The seasonal lifestyle pretty much allows me to come outside and come up here and just play for work. It's kind of how I look at it and do the things that I really like. And then in the off season, I have made enough money in the summertime to really just hang out and just go adventure and travel in other places if I want. Or I can also work, which I've also done in the wintertime, and go check out some new place that I haven't seen and do the exact same thing. So Ketchikan's like a second home to me, really. I like to come here in the summertime, and I like how slowed down the island life is, and everybody just feels so welcoming, and I love the adventure around here, the hiking, the kayaking. It's kind of a place to come and have fun. What Alaska means to me, like before I came up here, was just a new place to come and adventure and really explore what it was going to be like to come somewhere else and really just have a new beginning and just a different way of life to come and figure out what it's like. I had heard, or I'd met somebody who had worked up here in Alaska and told me to come like look for a job. And I started calling like a bunch of national parks, like looking for jobs. And then eventually they pointed me to a website called Coolworks, where pretty much you go to that website and it asks you like, you know, like where you want to work, like location, job description, and like with or without housing when you go onto the website. So I just did like Alaska tour guide with housing, and a bunch of jobs came up and I just applied for a bunch, and this is the one that, you know, spoke out to me the most. Some of the other jobs that I applied for were a raft guide up in Denali National Park, and then like a zipline guide in Palmer. My brother did not come up here the same time that I did, so I came up here my first season and he didn't work up here. He was still in high school, and he came up here, I want to say in like July, with my dad just to come visit. They'd never been to Alaska, so they were like, oh, well, now's finally our chance to go. Came up here, and you know, my brother from then on was like, yeah, like, you know, I wouldn't work up there or anything. It's like, all right, cool. So moving on to like the winter time, and I decided I was going to come up here for my second season, and my brother was just about to graduate high school, and he didn't really know what he wanted to do, so he decided that he was going to come up here. We came up here at slightly different times, but it's amazing having him. Like, we like to go hike and we like to go fish together. I mean, it's pretty much like the second we get off work, it's like, all right, what are we doing today? And him and I are just off doing fun stuff. The community here on arrival is fantastic. Everybody's super welcoming. Like the second you get here, everybody's just, you know, super quick to introduce you, like, or introduce themselves to you. And, you know, they're really quick to show you around and be super, super helpful. And then with me returning, everybody was just really excited to see me back and, you know, kind of get me back into the flow of things as well. So I'm originally from Cape Coral, Florida, and that is where I spend most of the time in my off season. I'll go back to Florida, but I usually do a bit of traveling over the off season as well. Yeah, so the kind of traveling that I did over this past winter, I did quite a bit of camping in the Everglades National Park, but the main thing I did was a road trip up here to Alaska from Florida, where I stopped at all the national parks along the way. I drove up the coast of California, so I just took the Pacific Coast Highway all the way up, and then stopped in Redwood National Park. And then after stopping in Redwood National Park, I went to Crater Lake National Park in Oregon. And then I have a friend who lives in Brewster, Washington, so I stayed with him for that night, and then left, went across the border to Canada, and then went to Jasper National Park in Alberta. And then from there, cut across through British Columbia and the Yukon to Whitehorse to then down to Skagway. And then I hopped on the ferry, which I think it took about 3 days to get here on the ferry from Skagway, so that was kind of cool. I like posted my hammock up in the solarium and just slept in there rather than getting a cabin, and just hung out for 3 days. Yeah, it's a little strange living on a ferry kind of after that, but at the same time, it's so completely normal. Like, now that I see how the ferries actually run and how they actually work compared to what it's like living on one now, where it's just not even close to the same thing. But it's kind of how I would imagine it to be.
I come in pretty early, usually about an hour before my job. After I determine how many guests I have, I'll go set up my boat, put down the engines, check the oil, empty out the rake-oar, the fuel, water separator, and just some really kind of basic look over stuff for the engine. Once I have that in, I'll load up my gear, my rods and reels, put on the boat, check the drag, make sure my hooks are nice and sharp, kind of position everything the way I like it. For me, it's kind of like that routine is sort of helping me mentally prepare for the day, just kind of knowing I have everything right where I want it, so I don't have to scramble for anything. Because when you're fishing and you need that tool or you need that thing, you need to know exactly where to reach for. Once I have my boat set up, I'll look at the wind, the tide, the sea, and just determine where I might go for the day. And it's the kind of thing where I never really expect it to go a certain way. You kind of always have to have a plan B. So I'll get to a certain point where I look at the water and the wind and see if it's kind of following the predicted forecast, and determine whether or not I'm going to go there, what the risk versus reward is for that area. It also depends on my guests too. You know, if I have people that I think can handle, you know, maybe a little more wind, maybe a longer ride, maybe a cooler morning, then maybe I'll go a little further. So we'll be dropping these down and I'll tell you exactly how deep to go. And to do that, it's as simple as this. You just flip this down, almost like a light switch. Put your thumb on it first, flip it down, release your thumb, and you watch it go down. You can just let it free spool down. I'll tell you exactly how deep to go. When you're ready to stop, flip it back up, and you're ready to jig. Jigging is a style of fishing where we're going to be going on a spot. Sometimes we anchor, sometimes we just drift. We go on a spot and we drop lures down to where the fish are. I'm going to be using my sounder to find the fish, to find a good school, maybe the right structure that I like, and then we'll determine which depth they're at, and we'll just send the lure down there, and then we jig it up and down. It's kind of a quick pull up, nice easy fall like that. You want to pull up to about 11 o'clock and let it down kind of quick. You don't want to let it down too fast. If you let it down too fast, what will happen is you'll get tangled on the eyelets like this. So if this is happening to you, just let it down a little more slowly. Oh, we're getting bites here already. So typically we start towards the top of the school of the fish, and then we work our way down through the fish. And oftentimes the fish will bite as the lure is falling. So we're pulling up to make the lure flutter up, and we're allowing it to fall. And as it falls, it attracts them in. So we're not using bait. You can use bait sometimes if you need a little edge, but I find that our jigs are better designed for not having anything on the hook. They fall a little better, they fall a little more quickly. So yeah, we'll go sit on a spot and see what's down there. If you feel any kind of little vibration, any little tap, like something's nibbling at it, you've got to set the hook. So you have to give it a good stern pull like that to set the hook. It's not a very quick pull, it's not a flick or a pop, just a kind of nice stern pull up and reel up like that. Keep tension on the rod, nice and easy and consistent. And then once you get to the surface, I'll be there to net the fish. With Fairmount Fishing Excursions, we offer a wilderness dining experience where we're basically going out to find our fish to eat. We catch our fish, we do about 2 hours or so of fishing, depending on time and conditions, and then we come out to this wilderness camp where I fillet up all the fish for the guests and talk about it a little bit. It's a pretty cool experience because I get to show them filleting fish, like, and teach them a little bit about all that. And then we pass it off to our chef here who cooks up our meal, and then we serve it around the campfire. So they catch their fish, they watch it get cleaned, and they eat it right here. And sometimes they're eating their fish that's only 20 minutes old. So after we do that, we kind of enjoy ourselves for about an hour and then return to town. We also offer charters that are more specifically targeting halibut. Usually those hardtop vessels that we have are going out for halibut. They go out a little further, less protected water. They have that cabin to keep everybody a little more protected. And with halibut fishing, it's a little bit of a different game. Usually kind of going to certain halibut areas and sitting on a spot, anchoring, fishing with bait, and kind of, you know, waiting for the halibut to come in, waiting for the tide change.